Hey everybody, welcome to Average Guy Opinions. This is your average guy, John Corelli. This is part 2 of the good, bad, and ugly of my day at school today. So just to finish up about what I was talking about, it was just, like I said, it was just disappointing to watch people make excuses and say we're overwhelmed. And no, you just decided not to do your job as well as you could. Like I say, you could see it on the film, on the recording of this camera in the gym, that all the paras were clustered in one corner. There were a couple out being active with the kids and a couple watching kids in that corner, but there were several that weren't doing what they needed to do. And these kids got away for 10 minutes, and the terrible things I told you happened. Not terrible. I mean, it sounds like it was almost like a game of doctor. But still, this girl didn't ask for that. I don't know, or maybe she did. But either way, she couldn't. It couldn't have been too good if her parents were pressing charges. So, yeah, there was that. And so, like I mentioned in the first part, spent the first day, the first period in the kitchen, second period in the gym. Right before lunch, we had this meeting, or excuse me, no, this was before. Actually, this was between first and second period. It doesn't matter when this happened, really. And then, I was still. After this meeting, I was with this kid that I was telling you about, and took him to gym, and the other para and the other two kids. And then he's this kid. I'm watching him because he doesn't need supervision as much. In fact, it's rare that he has a para, so it was like today was kind of different for him. Since my kid wasn't here, I went and I shouldn't say even dealt with this kid. Just went and was with this kid, and he's been writing on himself. And he's got writes little stitches, writes a sad face that's crying, writes broken hearts. And so he had done some of it before, and maybe even yesterday. I couldn't tell before I saw him today. And then so in gym, I noticed he had a Sharpie out and was doing it. And I was like, do you want to talk about this? And because I was worried that he's suicidal. Look, you never know with these kids, especially there's probably a higher depression rate in kids that have these issues. In fact, why wouldn't there be? I haven't looked at statistics, but it would make sense that these kids with with the more developmental disabilities probably have higher depression rates. They don't have as big of a circle of friends. A lot of their parents have, frankly, just bailed out on them. A lot of society has bailed out on them. So, wouldn't be surprising if that by the same token they would have higher rates of depression. So this kid was. He'd played basketball quite a bit, and like I said, I was in the middle of the gym with that other kid who was spinning around, and I go over and I'd given about 5 minutes. I like to, if the kids, depending on his needs and how he's been doing, I'll give kids breaks all the time. And so he'd been down there a while, 5-10 minutes. So I finally go over and I go, "What's going on?" As he's drawing on his arm. He's like, "Oh, nothing." I go, "Well, what's going on with this? You want to tell me about it?" And he's like, "No, not really." I go, "Okay, well, do you want to get back to playing basketball or soccer or volleyball?" And he's like, "No, not really." I go, "Well, it's almost lunchtime. We just go early?" And he's like, "Yes." And I go, "Okay, great." We leave, and we're walking down the hall, and he just starts opening up to me. And this kid had a story that will break your heart. He's one of 5 or 6 kids. His sister graduated from our high school, I think last year maybe. Oh no, she never graduated. So he has this older sister and then 4 younger brothers. It's like 6 kids, and so he told me his older sister at a pretty young age, I think 19, miscarried earlier this year. And so I'm like, geez, okay, so going through a lot. And then he just tells me about he just goes into his family. And and this is, like I said, this is walking down the hall. It's a big school, it's a long hallway. So we're going, and he starts telling me about, the sister. And then he tells me about, a little bit about his brothers, and that they're, some of them, one's in Japan because he went to the military. 2 and he's like, I think he's the 5th out of the 6 kids, or 4th, but like he was talking about 2 older brothers doing stuff. 2 are in the house, 1 is in the military, so he's the 5th out of 6 kids. And so we're talking, tells me his mom's having a hard time. She's a single mom. I was like, and so of course, I try to keep the conversation going, but I also don't want to force the conversation, which can be tricky. But you just got to be sensitive in these cases, and I try to do my best with that. So I said, "What's going on with your dad? Is he around?" He's like, "No, it's a terrible person." I was like, "Oh God, here we go." He tells me, proceeds to tell me how his dad's down in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and his dad has been abusive. And when it is a special needs kid and maybe a dramatic kid, you also got to take all this stuff with a grain of salt. I've never assumed that they lie, but I'm also not going to assume that it's maybe 100% the truth either. But so this kid told me about it. His dad used to abuse him. His dad made him walk to his aunt's house across town in the middle of the night one night, which is very dangerous. He said, "I walked for 7 hours all night." I was like, "Geez," he's telling me this. And finally, he drops this on me, that his younger brother, I think he's 2 years younger. Oh, and by the way, today was this kid's 18th birthday, and he's just unloading on me. I don't know if I provided him a birthday gift or not, but today we made a cake. That was one of the things we did in the kitchen. We have a lot of cake mixes. Like I said, we try in part one, we try to encourage these kids to cook and clean and do kitchen stuff and prepare for life after high school. And so yeah, he chose a carrot cake, and we made that together. So that was a nice part of my day too. It's kind of bond with this kid who I barely knew at all. I'd spent very little time with him before this. And so we're walking down the hall, and he proceeds to tell me his younger brother, I think he's 16, has liver cancer. Jesus Christ. And I could hear his voice start to break. And luckily, we're almost down the hall, all the way to our neck of the woods. We call it the SAS, Student Achievement Services, part of the building. And it's basically the special needs part of the building. I go, "You want to talk about it?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Wow." And I was like, this has really felt good. Felt good for me to get this kid to open up to a person he really had no reason to open up to. And sometimes that's how it works. Sometimes the best person to open up to is a person you don't know at all, because you don't necessarily have that. He doesn't know how I'm going to react, which can be a good thing. And I just do my best in these situations to try and listen. And so we went into, luckily one of the conference offices our conference rooms was empty, and I want to go in here? He's like, "Yeah." And he just spilled to me for 20 minutes, and it was really a beautiful thing. And he says, I never cry because I have to be one of the men of the house. And he almost broke like several times. I was like, it's okay if you cry. But I kind of lightened the mood a little bit. I go, if you cry, I'm going to cry too. And I think I really would have, because, it was heartbreaking what he was telling me for some 20 minutes, and it was a beautiful thing. It was a great connection. And towards the end of it, it was basically lunchtime, because like I said, we had left the gym early. And so he had those 20 minutes before lunch. And so lunch bell rang, and I was like, and we talked a few more minutes, and then I was like, "How you feeling about all this?" He's like, "Well, I go, you don't have to feel better, but if it helped, I hope it was helpful for you to talk about it." He goes, "Yeah, it definitely was." I go, "Well, what do you want to do? You want to go to lunch?" He's like, "Yeah, I think I could eat now." I was like, "Oh, good. Okay. Do you want me to go with you?" He's like, "No, I'm good." I was like, "Wow." And so, I literally did not see him for the rest of the day. That was, and then that was late lunch. We had lunch around 1 o'clock. And then I got to hang out with another kid who I love. This girl is a Libyan, and I knew her back at Eastridge, and she's a little firecracker. And sometimes she just refuses to work. Sometimes she literally will lay on the floor, a sophomore in high school, and I'm like, "Come on, baby, come on, let's go." And so it took some coaxing. She was having a hard time, and I got her up to art class. And when she got up to art class, she just blossomed. We were doing a cool little project. It's like a mosaic type of project where you chose like some sort of easy cartoonish picture. She chose a turtle, and I just drew a quick turtle for her. And she had some glue with Q-tips, and you just use the glue and little squares of paper and mosaic the turtle. And she did that for about half the period, and she kicked ass over her fellow special needs students. All the other special needs kids were either not doing it or needing a lot of assistance from their adults. And this is where it was a nice end to the day too, because all the adults in the art class, unlike Jim yesterday, were just into it, just doing their jobs and pushing the kids at the right moments, and showing their passion for these children. So it was a really nice way to end the day with my little Libyan girl. And we get these kids on the buses, we love them, and we try to get them and we tell them to have a great weekend. And it is. This job is it's got a little bit of everything. It can be horrific, and it can be the most beautiful thing in the world. And I got to be honest, there's nothing I'd rather be doing. I wish it were closer. I wish I didn't have to drive across town to get there and back home, but I love the school, I love the kids, and I love the work. Thanks, you guys. I know that was a long one. That was a lot of a two-parter, but that was a hell of a day. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for checking it out. Bye.